What up, New York Giant Nation and football fans all over the world? It is your boy, Mac the Giants fan, and I'm here with my guy, the super dope co-host, Adam Costas. Tomorrow is the NFL draft, so y'all know what time it is. It's time for the real NFC East Roundup. What's going on out there, Adam? What's up, normal guy? Philly B, thanks for dropping in, man. Appreciate y'all. Daniel Barry, what's going on, man? Thanks for dropping in. What's up, Adam? How you feeling, brother?
I'm feeling good as heck, as hell. I'm excited. I'm nervous. There's so much going on, but at the end of the day, I'm excited. But if the Giants don't do what I think they might do, then I won't be excited. But we'll get into that in a minute. But NFL, I can't believe it's here, man. I can't believe it's here. We've talked about it for weeks. We've previewed it for months. We've done the combines. We've done the pro days. We've talked about it on mock draft, and all this. You're in Twitter Spaces dealing with all the different fan bases. And so it's just crazy to see that we're here at this juncture in time.
Absolutely. One day from round one day from a lot of young guys' lives changing forever. And yeah, you hit it on there. You mentioned it already. New York Giants, it's going to make or break how I feel coming after tomorrow, man. What they do, man. Because I know what you want them to do. I know what I want them to do. And they need to do it. They need to make it happen one way or another, by hook or by crook. They need to come away with one of those guys tomorrow, man. But at the top end of the draft, you got the Washington Commanders, man, down there picking number 2 overall, sitting in prime position. Looking like they're going to be adding potentially Jaden Daniels is the most likely candidate from what pretty much we all know, what we all been hearing about, man. But and they could pull off any possibilities. There could be any surprises there with Washington, man, number 2?
I mean, there is always a possibility they go with Drake May. That is a possibility. It's something I don't think they're going to do. I think they like Jaden Daniels. I think he fits what they do. I know there was that report about him, not being happy with the Washington Commanders did like a meet and greet, but they brought all top 4 candidates in, or top 4 QBs in, and kind of brought them in together to see how they interact and hung out. And I think he thought if he's the guy, maybe he would be the only one. Everyone has different interviewing tactics. Their method was maybe we can find a feel with a bunch of guys in the room together. So who knows? I think they're going to go with Jaden Daniels. I think that is who they like, who's going to fit the system, who also might bring the bounce back in the step for the Commanders, as a lot of things are going on. But Jaden Daniels is pretty good. He was a Heisman runner-up last year. They couldn't do anything wrong with getting this guy. I mean, they can't get Caleb Williams. Obviously, that wasn't on the table. So you settle for this guy. And he's very dynamic, very fast, can run past your guys, on with his legs. Very dual threat quarterback. Reminds me of Randall Cunningham in a way. I know a lot of people said, I think Lamar Jackson was a comp or something along those lines, but he's very, very Randall Cunningham-esque with me, because Randall loved to throw. He didn't want to be a runner. He did it because he was athletically gifted. But if you listen to Randall Cunningham, he'd tell you he wanted to throw the ball and throw touchdowns. So I think Jaden Daniels is very similar, because they both came in at 215 was like Randall at his heyday, 200 pounds, when he was a young guy. So you got Jaden Daniels, same kind of thing. I think he's an underrated passer. We'll find out if it was the system at LSU or if he really is the guy that we think he is. Brian Thomas catching and Malik Neighbors catching your passes does help your average, but I do believe he's the proper candidate for them going forward. And I don't think they're going to trade out. I think they're pretty cemented with the number 2 pick. For everything that I've heard or have read about, it's really, It's really him or bust, really. So I think he'll be the pick at number 2. But they'll take their full 10 minutes.
No, absolutely. It's definitely looking that way. I mean, like you said, this young man, I mean, he's a dynamic player. Washington is a team that definitely needs that juice, man. Needs something to re-energize this franchise. They've got a couple of good receivers already in place. If they do go that route of Jaden Daniels, got some guys. I mean, like you said, you were talking about Malik Neighbors and the guys he was throwing to LSU boys. He'll be going there throwing to John Dodson and Scary Terry, man. That's not nothing to sneeze at either, man. So he's
that's
got a couple of good guys already there.
And but we that's just right now. You don't know who they might acquire. The draft, they have a couple draft picks. They didn't really have to move any assets, right? So I think they have 2 seconds and 2/3. So they could really fill out their roster real quick in this draft, being that they, aren't mortgaging the farm, so to speak, for what's good reality check for Caleb Williams. So when you have that and you can keep your draft picks, you can now fill in with weapons, an Xavier Leggett or your Troy Franklin or something along those lines. Maybe get a linebacker, maybe another running back to complement their running back in Akers. Is it Akers? Cam Akers, I think. Isn't that the guy that they got from San Diego? Yeah. Right? So to kind of complement him and Brian Robinson there, that'll allow them to have a dual threat. Plus, they might get a tight end. They have Ben Sinnott, a nice tight end at Kansas State, who could be had in the later rounds. Maybe they do that, upgrade the tight end position. See, the thing about the Commanders right now is because there's a quarterback there for them, and they don't necessarily have to trade up to get anybody like a Drake May or Jaden Daniels or anything like that. They can really just focus on one pick, best pick available, because they put themselves in that position. That's why they lose those games at the end of the year. So you don't have to mortgage the farm because you forecast. That's what good GMs do. That's what good coaches do. They look, they gather, they say, okay, listen, we're not trying to lose, but we know this is a bad season. Let's try to evaluate the talent we got and go forward. We may not be here next year, but at least, if I'm the owner or ownership group, that's what I did. And that's what they did. They weren't trying to tank. They just were really bad, right? And it ended up getting worse for them. But it wasn't like when they were bad, they tried to do upgrades. They traded 3 defensive ends away, both Montez Sweat and Chase Young, to get assets in case they were going to trade up for a quarterback. Well, guess what? Now they don't have to trade up for one. Now they just can use that assets to do whatever. Maybe trade up in the draft. Maybe use them as picks. Who knows? When you have assets like that, you can do that. You can maybe mortgage 2 seconds and a third to move back up and get a Brian Thomas in the 3rd round. This is what the Commanders can do. The Commanders are probably, if they do this correctly, you're probably going to say at the end of this, wow, what a great draft they had.
I mean, if they hit on this pick at number 2 pick and say, let's say it's Jaden Daniels, they hit, and if it's a hit, like he comes in and he's everything as advertised, what he's supposed to be. This Commander team, depending on some of the things they do in the draft, but as long as they continue and draft well and have a promising offseason, which they've already kind of gotten off to a pretty promising offseason as far as free agency already in the early part of the offseason this far. This team, you think this team could actually have maybe a potential Houston Texans type of turnaround? I think because this team has talent. They have talent scattered around this roster. It's not like a team that's just void of talent. They've got some guys. They've got some players on this team, man. They just really need to get that quarterback, cement that quarterback position.
I'll do a different team. The Lions, not of the list the past year. Remember that last year when they were funneling around under 500 and they kind of put it together at the end? I know it's different because, you had Jared Goff and you're trying to equate the quarterback. But what I'm saying is I don't think they're going to be a playoff team. But I do believe they're going to be exciting and dynamic to watch and will be on the upswing towards the end of the year. I can see that. I don't think they're going to be a dumpster fire completely. Dan Quinn's not an incompetent coach such as Ron Rivera is, right? Cliff Kingsbury is a decent OC, not great, but he's decent. That defense is going to come with it because that's what he did in Dallas. So I think they're going to be in games. What I want to see out of the Commanders, if I'm a Commander fan, is can we be competitive week in and week out? That's what you want to do. Lay the foundation. I don't see the thing is about Houston. Here's the thing. CJ Stroud was awesome. was absolutely awesome. And that is hard to duplicate. What I want to see is them be like the Colts and be competitive, like what Anthony Richardson was, where they're competitive in games. He might win you some games, he might lose you some games, but he's clearly the reason why they're in the upswing, right? And I can clearly see them. They won 4 games with Sam Howell. I'm going to go on the limb and say they win close to 7 games this year, coming up with Jaden Daniels at the helm. That he is a +3 in my eyes in the victory column for them. And a guy like Jaden Daniels as a rookie should be about +7 in the win column when you're there. You should get about 7 wins. When he develops, and what you're hoping for a +10 starter, a guy who can give you 10 at least 10 wins a year and fighting for the playoffs. So when you have that in Jaden Daniels, I don't mean to use plus and minus, but it kind of gives you an idea of where I'm thinking for these teams. If I'm the Commanders, I want to land at a 7-10, 6-11 record. That's successful to me, especially if Jaden Daniels is out there making plays. You know what I mean?
Absolutely agree, man. Uh, I do think one thing this team does need to figure out. They're going to need to figure out some things defensively. I feel like that's was had a lot of issues a season ago. Was on the defensive side of the football. They need to really
I
figure out
agree.
a way to put things together to be more consistent on that side of the ball. You think? How do you feel? Think they attack that in this draft, and maybe in the later rounds?
I think they will go defense in this round. Like I said, they have 2 second-round picks, so they probably have the autonomy. Actually, let's get their picks up just so we know exactly where their picks are. We're this is an interactive, show. Why not be interactive and give the people what they want? Where it's not like we're in the 1990s where we need a book to look this up. So they have. I'm just saying. People laugh, but I'm just they have number 2 and they have number
Gotcha.
36 and then they have 40, right? So you have the number 2 pick. So then at 36, that's a pretty good pick. With 40, you could package that up. Not to mention you have 3 third-round picks. They don't have a fourth-round pick. They have 2 fifths and a seventh. So in the top 100 of the draft, if they were just to remain chalk, they have at least their number 2, 36, 40, 67, 78, and 100. They'll have their pick of the litter of any player in the top 100, right? So you can move around the board. I think at 36, if they see a guy at the bottom, maybe they want to trade with Kansas City and say, hey, we want to get a guy maybe like a Chop from Penn State. I forget his full name, but it's eluding me now. But Chop from Penn State, he's the defensive end who's pretty good, and that could be what they do, an outside linebacker. They could get Latua. Well, he won't be down there. I doubt he will be there. But they have Western Michigan. They have Marshawn Nealand. You know what I mean? Or Isaac, right, from Penn State. I think they call him Chop. That's the guy. So he's a second rounder. So if you want, you could stay chalk and address some of the needs right there. And I think that's what I'm saying. I think the Commanders, what do they have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 10 picks, right? Am I reading that correctly?
Let me.
9 picks, I think, right? So with those 9 picks, they might not keep all of them because they're going to trade around. I mean, look, the sweet spot is here. You have 36 to 100. They have 2 twos and 3 threes. You can do a lot with that, if you know what I mean. You could trade up, you could trade out, you could get more picks, you could add more players, you could trade down. I think in the first 3 rounds or in the first 3 picks, this is where they're going to get a lot of their team, right? So a lot of their defensive players, because they can get a cornerback as well. They do need corner help as well, not just on the defensive side, but they need the cornerbacks as well. And I think that would help. They need everything on defense, really, but corner would be helpful. Probably a safety. I know that they have a safety there that they just paid. So they may want to pay. May want to pair him up, but look for a guy in the second round. Maybe they trade up if a guy like Kool-Aid falls to them, or Cooper DeJean. I know he's coming off a knee injury. He might be there in the late first, early second, right? So, you know, they've got a Keon Mitchell. He's probably going to go higher than that, but there's a lot of guys around here that will fall into your lap. So I think the Commanders are in a very good spot, in my eyes, to develop a team. Now, how fast they gel, It's going to be on them. I do believe if you watch this team build, it's going to start from the quarterback position. They're going to probably get offensive line help as well. I mean, that's what I'm saying. You have what we just mentioned: 6 picks in the top 100, 3 third round picks, 2 second round picks, and a first round pick. You can get your quarterback, an offensive lineman, his best corner if you want. You can fill out with a tight end, maybe another lineman, and then a receiver or something like that. Like when you have a plethora of picks like that, and you don't have to move, you have the autonomy of doing whatever. And not to mention, you could move if you so desire. If there's a guy that slips to you because all the quarterbacks are being taken, and maybe a corner or a safety or a linebacker, outside linebacker slips to you, and you're like, hey, we need to get this guy. Like I said, maybe you trade up with Kansas City and say, hey, listen, we'll give you 36 and 40 to move up to 32, right? And then they're like, all right, well, we're already decent. We can still get some guys there. And then Houston traded out. Remember, they traded with the Vikings. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities for them to acquire more picks and get more players, or just stay chalk and get a good player there. So I do believe they would go receiver as well.
Got shout out to my guy. Shout out to my guy at NFL Reality Check AK, man. Make sure y'all go sub up. Check my guy out, man. Like he says, he's got a question here. He says, let me ask you, if the Chargers were to trade Herbert to Washington for the 3rd overall pick, would Washington not become a division threat? He says, I think so. I mean, Justin Herbert's a talented guy. I mean, I guess he
elevates that team. I mean, I think they would be at least 3rd at the very least, because the quarterback situation for New York is terrible, and that's the only reason why. If you're bringing Herbert, I mean, I do believe, and I know this is outside the realm of possibilities, but Herbert gets dogged a lot, and let's see what he does this season. As an NFC East podcast, I don't really want to get into too much about it, but I don't think, to be honest with you, I don't think Washington would do that trade right now. If anything, if they did do that trade, the number 2 pick would be to LA would be probably JJ McCarthy, because Jim Harbaugh would love him to come in that offense and be right there. And then I think if you're swapping for Herbert, obviously you probably don't get a pick, so you're either giving them the 6th pick outright and not getting a pick, or you're swapping picks and getting Herbert. However you want to do it, I guess it would be probably you probably have to swap, because I would want Herbert and a 2 if I'm going to give up for Jaden Daniels, because you give up a franchise quarterback, I need to get one in return. So he instantly upgrades Washington. Do I see it happening? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't think the regime is like that. I think you have a chance.
I don't see it happening either.
I think they have a chance to pick their guy. So, why wouldn't you swap? You're not going to give me outright the 1st round pick if you're going to try to move to get the 2nd, because I'm going to need something in the deal. Like, I'm not just going to take Herbert. I mean, I could, essentially.
Here's why I kind of feel like I know it's not going to happen, though. It's because you just look at, what are you going to take on, just enormous contract with Justin Herbert? Now, he's by no means an old man. He's definitely not washed up by no means. But at the end of the day, you got a chance to get a potentially franchise-changing young quarterback on a rookie deal.
Right.
At this point right now, that can potentially upgrade your roster to the levels that you're looking for. So there's just no way I can see them passing up on that opportunity.
I do it.
Yeah.
Like if you were Atlanta.
Yeah, absolutely. A team like that.
And you were at number 2 and you were a quarterback away, and you're like, well, we don't really want to reset per se at the quarterback position, right? We need to win now, but we just happen to land here because, our other quarterback broke his leg or some shit. And you ended up there, and they called you and said, hey, we would trade you, Justin Herbert, for the number 2 overall pick in this year's draft. I'd say in a heartbeat, yes, because I've got my defense made. I've got my offense pretty good. I got my offensive weapons already. That makes more sense. For the Commanders, while I do agree he's a great player and I would want him, I don't think it makes sense right now as you're trying to build a team around a young quarterback on that contract, right? But again, if they were further along, like if you were in LA's shoes, if LA was in the position and they had a chance to do it, right? And LA was like, we want to get out of this pick or we want to trade Justin Herbert, then it might be a different story. But I don't think they're going to do it. They just paid him. I think he's going to really be good with Harbaugh. And like they said, good quarterbacks are hard to come by. I don't, even though it sounds pretty, I think the Commanders are going to just stick and pick right here.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. I totally agree with that. I don't see them. I think they're just in a position right now. Like you said, they're in a pretty much perfect position. I mean, the only thing that could have been better is if they were number one and was
Right.
able to get Caleb Williams. But so I mean,
Drake May is
they're
not a
sitting in a
bad
great
compilation.
spot. I think this team. Nah, not by no means. By no means. Like you said, this is one of those special quarterback classes, remnants of like the 2004 class or the 2000 the 19 the 83 class. I don't know
Yes.
if you go back how far you can go back. Quite it's Dan Marino, John Elway, and those
Oh, I
guys,
know
Jim
of the
Kelly.
class.
I
I
mean,
don't. I'm not. Wasn't alive
yeah.
when they were picked, but I do know. I do know that class.
So this has that kind of this quarterback class upcoming in this draft has that kind of potential to had those kind of legacies, man. I think teams are going to grab these young men and we'll see what happens. But I think I agree, Washington Commanders, they're going to stick with that number 2 pick. They're not moving for anybody, and I think they're going to get their guy, whether it's Jaden Daniels, whether it's Drake May. We'll find all that out tomorrow by probably around 8:40ish or so, maybe. But who knows how long they take holding out for these picks? Like they don't know who they gonna pick already. It killed me. Teams kill me with that. Chicago will probably use the whole damn time acting like they're not like picking somebody else other than Caleb Williams. That I don't know. It's crazy. Draft is funny like that. But let's talk a little. What's going on, Wells? Real quick. Shout out to my guy Wells, man. Got his YouTube channel up and running, man. Go support my guy, man, over there, Wells. And check his YouTube channel out, man. Definitely doing some good things over there. He's got some super dope videos, dope editing, smooth, man. Wells doing the damn thing, man. Get that UFC, get all that the combat sports like that. Get all info, everything up to date. Wells doing big things over there, man. But
Keep up the good work.
but yeah, let's. I mean, I guess you ready to talk a little bit of New York Giants, bro? You ready to go there?
Unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately,
Number
yes.
6 overall right now, sitting at the number 6 pick, man. New York Giants. Hearing some things. I've been hearing some things the last couple of days that some possible trade talks been heating up a little bit. New York Giants been in some serious contact with the New England Patriots, maybe trying to get up to that number 3 spot and to be able to potentially, from what I'm hearing, hopefully secure one Mr. Drake May. Man, I'm curious how you feel about that, and how would you feel if the Giants were able to pull this off and make that happen tomorrow night, man?
How would I feel? How would I feel? Let me tell you how I feel. Great question, Matt. Great question. I'll tell you. I'd be elated. I'd be happy. I'd be able to enjoy Giants football again. Now I cannot. Why? Because I have an albatross of a quarterback that's divided the franchise in half with the people who are apologists for him and the people who are critical of him, who the people who are critical of him don't necessarily care. They just want to move on because that's what football teams and good business does. And the people who are apologetic to him want to get him a receiver and weapons. Look, the reason you get a quarterback, and I would love this move, and I think there's some parameters in place. There's a lot of smoke going on, a lot of posturing, a lot of, habituating. Drake May is the pick. Will the Giants get their guy? I'm going to go on a limb here and say this. There's going to be an Eli Manning draft day type trade here. Okay. Word is New England likes Jay McCarthy, but don't think he's going to get there at 6, so might not make it there at 6. The Giants want to get Drake May. I think the Giants either move to 4 and draft JJ McCarthy, then trade or draft or find a way to get JJ McCarthy at 6. Trade JJ McCarthy for Drake May, and we get Drake May. I believe that's their guy. I think JJ McCarthy and Michael Penix are options B and C, which I do think they'll pick. But I think you got to pick a quarterback, and I think this needs to be the draft to pick a quarterback. Let me tell you a story. All right, people like to talk about history. They like to talk about this debate we got into on Twitter, which shouldn't have even been a debate. Who is first? Is it a receiver or is it a quarterback? Well, let me bring you down memory lane if you guys haven't forgotten. This is story time with Adam right now, okay? And if I had the Reading Rainbow theme song, I'd have it playing in the background, But here it is. The Giants went out and got Eli Manning in 2004. They traded up the farm to get him, right? They had 4 draft picks in 2005. You know what they did in free agency after they got their quarterback, after they established their guy, who he was? They went out and got Plaxico Burress, the biggest free agent receiver on the planet at the time. They went out and they got him. They didn't go out and get the receiver first and then the quarterback. They went out and got the quarterback, Eli Manning, and then got Plaxico Burress. And everything else fell into place with Webster and Jacobs and things like that. That's what you do. Okay. The Giants, there was rumors that they wanted to keep Kerry Collins. And Ernie, of course, he was like, I got to have my guy. I got to go up there and get a franchise mover. Okay. Remember, they picked Phillip Rivers and they made a trade to San Diego to get Eli Manning. Joe Shane, by hook or by crook, bring us home a quarterback. He stinks. I'll tell you what, if they pick a receiver at 6, that's a win now move. That's a fucking half-ass build while you're competing type of move. Okay, that's what the Giants normally do. You want that? That's fine. But if he doesn't have Puka Nacua numbers, and the team isn't at least in the NFC Championship game, then what are we doing? You're just wasting another guy's season. Oh, but we don't get premium players, Adam. We got the top tackle in the draft in 2020. Okay, we've wasted his 4 years. Guy's been to 1 playoff game in 4 years. We've got one of the best D tackles in football. What has he done for us? Okay, like outside of being dominant on defense, we haven't won much with him. What is my point, guys? My point is this: you're wasting away guys and talent that is here to stay cornerstone players because you want to run it back with some idiot. Because you want to run. So what are we doing? But if you draft a receiver, that's like Barkley again. That reminds me of Barkley in 2018 when we had a chance to draft the quarterback, bring a guy in-house while we still were playing Eli Manning. We decided to go with the running back. Okay, we didn't entertain any trades or anything like that. I think the Giants need to stick and pick. I know people are like, they're going to trade back, they're going to trade up. Whatever you do, get your quarterback. The Giants, I want to hear this. The New York Giants select QB from whatever school. That's what we need. I don't care what anybody tells me. You can't argue with me with this. I am firm in my stance and my belief. Okay? If you want to rebuild your franchise correctly, do it. How are you going to plan for next year? Okay? Riley Leonard. If I say the name Riley Leonard, people think of Duke. When he played at Duke and go, ew, Riley Leonard, right? Because he's going to be the Notre Dame quarterback. What if he comes out next year? What if he comes out? Are you going to be, and he's not going to be ranked as high as these guys. Are you going to be the same shit? Are you going to do the same shit where you're like, oh, well, I can't draft him because, we need this, we need that. Because at that point, when are you going to draft a receiver? And we all know that Daniel Jones, his peak was 2022, right? That's probably the best you're going to get out of him, all right, if he's healthy. Let's be real. He has never showed you anything else other than that. And that means he's plateaued. Because remember, his rookie year, he played above the X's and O's. And he sucked. So he kind of came down to earth. 2022 is about his ceiling. He'll probably give you 15, maybe 20 touchdowns a year. Nothing spectacular, right? So you're going to waste another year of this guy? I'm just saying. I'd rather see Drew Lock. But then what happens? So let's play the scenario out. You draft Malik Neighbors. He underachieves like Garrett Wilson, and everyone's happy. Oh, it's like they made 1,000 yards and 4 touchdowns with a bad quarterback situation. Oh, I wish Then you're going to realize it's a bad quarterback situation. Then we're going to go and do what we did with Daniel Jones and force a square peg into a round hole because we need a quarterback now. But do we get a quarterback? Do we get a quarterback when the quarterbacks are good? No, we get them in the secondary market when they're bad. Right. And of course, we're not going to be in the top 10 or number 1 or number 2. We're probably going to be right where we are, 7, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're going to have to give up assets and we're going to go back and have the same struggle. Well, I don't really want to give up assets for Riley Leonard, third quarterback. I don't want to really give up assets for this guy when I can get this and this and this. Meanwhile, Brian Dable, who's been shown the door because the team stinks, right? Now we have a new coach. By the way, people aren't talking about this. The coaching class next year is Mike Vrabel, Bill Belichick, and Brian Johnson are the 3 heads of the table right now in that coaching room. And there could be more to come as the year goes on. So now you're going to tell me you hire Brian Johnson, you hire Mike Vrabel, and they're going to sit there and give the keys to Daniel Jones. And so now you have to draft a quarterback, and they're going to force a quarterback pick or maybe not, because now you're going to wait for Arch Manning. Oh, that's a great idea. Guy hasn't even started his own team, and we're sitting here dreaming about getting him. This is what I mean. The delusion that goes on with all this shit. Mind you, and this, I'll get off my soapbox here and let Max speak. Mind you, I can find the Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill and Puka Nacua all in the 2nd to 5th rounds.
Shout out to Alex, man, for Big Blue of the Bronx, man. He's saying this right now. Don't be shocked that the Giants miss on the quarterback and take Neighbors, and Dable's fired, and Belichick's hired, and we signed Dak $45 million
Cowboy
a year
quarterback
plus
to be our starting quarterback.
Woo! That'd be some wild. Shout out to Alex. Make sure y'all go sub up this channel, Big Blue and Big Blue in the Bronx, man.
We're smoking right now. That's why we need a quarterback right now in house, because this is the type of shit that I'm talking about. Saying this right now. See, that's what. But then again, who is Dak? What is Dak going to do? We don't even have a team. You're going to have a 2nd-year receiver, okay, with nobody else really on the other end. Our defense coming to his own. Dak Prescott can't even win. Somebody brought this point up in Twitter space. Dak Prescott can't even win with all-stars on his team, and now you're going to bring him here to this. Nobody.
My God. Here, look. What's going on? No mess, no nest, no jest. Thanks for popping in, man. I appreciate you as always, bro. Ghost Dog, what is going on with you, man? But check. Okay, so I just breaking news that just came in. T. Higgins has officially requested a trade from Cincinnati Bengals, man. I mean, there's potentials all around the board. Giants, you go get your quarterback. I mean, maybe you can. I mean, I know people are don't trade away all your draft capital, but at the same time, I mean, if you got a guy like T. Higgins in here, you get a young quarterback. You got a guy like T. Higgins with some of the other young receivers on this team. Maybe you might be actually talking about something right now. You know what I mean? But that's all. Obviously, we'll have to see if that actually really can come true or not. But T. Higgins has officially requested to be traded from the Cincinnati Bengals. He is not happy with that franchise tag they slapped on him, and I think he knows the writing's truly on the wall. Him and Jamar Chase are not both going to get paid. So he pretty much knows he's going to be the odd man out when this all comes down to the come down, and he's pretty much trying to get in front of that. So what do you think about a guy like that potentially if the Giants were able to swing a quarterback and draft the young quarterback and maybe be able to even acquire a potential receiver of that caliber in T. Higgins?
Exactly. But guys, we have too many holes. I didn't think you could get a receiver like that. I told you. Is Joe Burrow being traded? No, he's not. You know why? Because they're building the team around him. They're letting one of their good receivers go because they have Jamar Chase and know they can get an asset for him and know they can replace him in this draft. Why? Because this draft is loaded with Let me think. Oh, I don't know. Receivers? They're all over the goddamn place.
Absolutely.
So this is what I mean.
Absolutely. There's one I like too.
There's Brandon Ayuk is out there on the trade block, right? Apparently Deebo Samuel is on the trade block. T. Higgins is now on the trade block. Okay. And now we have Neighbors, Adunze, but don't forget about, Brian Thomas, Addie Mitchell, Xavier Leggett, Malachi Corey, Troy Franklin, Ricky Parasol. Do I need to go down the list? I have a whole book here that says they're all their names. We can get guys all over the place.
Absolutely agree. And this has been like that biggest excuse everybody keeps saying, well, we have too many holes to trade the draft capital. Isn't one of the biggest, largest holes on this team the quarterback position? Probably the largest hole on this team is the quarterback position. And you got some good prospects, and you're not going to get guys of this caliber coming out every year. You got to take advantage of this opportunity. I just don't understand why people seem to be scared and want to shy away from it. You have to go out there and grab the bull by the horns, man. And you got to get one of these top guys, man. You can't let this all just slip through your fingers, man. You got to get one of these guys. You got to bring them in because as far as I'm concerned, they're all an upgrade from what we have right now, which is absolutely maybe the worst quarterback room in all of the NFL. And absolutely maybe the worst quarterback room in all of the NFL.
I'd take Penix at 6 too. I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants have some type of plan where if they can't get May, they trade back, right? With Minnesota and pick up Penix at 11 and then be able to pick up Brian Thomas at 23. or some crap like that. I could easily see it. They need to walk away. Like I'm even going to extend this umbrella to the second round at least. Get a Bo Nix, get a Penix Jr., get a Spencer Rattler at the very least. You need to walk away with somebody of some talent in this damn draft. And I'm not talking about go get Joe Milton or Sam Hartman in round 4. I'm talking about rounds 1 and 2. If that means you have to reach, which a lot of people use that word reach, I'll tell you what a reach is before we get to. If you have to reach in the second round to get Spencer Rattler, fine, right? Do it if all the quarterbacks are gone. But here's what the word reach is, right? Everyone's talking about a reach. A reach would be picking maybe a Bo Nix or a Spencer Rattler at 6, right? Those guys don't necessarily have first-round grades on them, but you pick them in the first round. That's a reach. Picking Penix Jr. is not a reach, okay? Picking Penix Jr. is not a reach. And so for me, you don't somebody said, oh, Penix Jr. is a reach at 6. How? He's the best quarterback. He's arguably the best quarterback in college football. I mean, he was a Heisman runner-up. He threw for 4,600 yards and like 30-something touchdowns. He's all over the place, right? But we don't want to pick him because
Adam, it was because he had great elite receivers and a great offensive line.
Well, then how is Jaden Daniels number 2 then?
It was just because of that. It was just.
I'm just saying
that was the only reason. It was just because.
And it's funny because
he's not really that good. He just had elite talent around him.
Well, it's funny because
that's what they all said.
Because Bo Nix doesn't have elite talent around him, and he still threw for 4,500 yards, and people want to curse that guy out like he's the worst in injury, right? Meanwhile, if you go read a letter that Michael Penix put out to all the GMs, you'll know why you picked that guy number 6. Okay, that guy talked about being a leader of men, overcoming adversity, telling the guys on Washington that if you stay with me, you're going to win a national title, and delivering on that. That's what you want. That's a man mover. That's a team mover. That's a guy that when a Dallas Cowboy, let's say Micah Parsons, gets a little overzealous and gives you an elbow to the forehead, that your teammates are coming to rally around you and take his head off. That's what you're going to do when you get a new guy in this building. And the Giants have no excuse. You know why I give them no excuse? I'll tell you why. Because they did this to themselves. They traded for Darren Waller, who might retire. They let Saquon Barkley and Xavier McKinney walk with no compensation given to them. Not one. You decided to keep them at 2-8. And now you're afraid to move up assets to go get a guy because we have too many holes? What holes are we talking about? Why is everybody so held down on assets that they don't even know what it's going to be? A first-round pick. Okay, great. So did I care that Eli Manning gave him a first-round pick? I got 2 Lombardis out of it. I don't even care about Sean Merriman and Mike Nugent. I don't even remember what numbers they were picked. Those are the 2 picks they are. Sean Merriman had like a good 8-year run. He was a good player. Mike Nugent, the kicker, was the kicker. That's it. Meanwhile, in that same time frame, they had Phillip Rivers, who was a great quarterback for them. He's going to be a Hall of Famer no matter what anybody says, but didn't deliver on the rings. Now, that is because he had Peyton Manning and Tom Brady in this division, so I can't blame him fully, but still. He didn't deliver. However, Eli Manning in that trade, who we gave up, our first and then a first next year and basically the entire 2004 draft to get him, well, guess what? We got 2 Lombardis, and he's going to the Hall of Fame. And he's a 2-time Super Bowl MVP. So I think the Giants won out on that trade. I mean, the people who fear so much about getting a quarterback makes no sense to me. But then what's funny? It's like, oh, well, the Giants want Malik Neighbors. So why would the Giants not tell you what quarterback they want, but then go out and tell you what receiver they want? That doesn't make sense to me. Like, well, we don't want to tell you the quarterback we want, but we're going to let you know that we want to draft Malik Neighbors so that somebody now, that everyone's saying Denver moves up. What if a team like Atlanta wants to move up? I'm not saying they will, but I'm just saying, like, if you're going to tell me that you're holding your cards close to the vest on quarterback, but then not holding your cards close to the vest at receiver, and you think that the turnaround, you just said it. You just said what team has a chance to have a C.J. Stroud-esque opportunity, and you're going to pass that up because you want to keep running back with no-neck Jones and Drew, I can't even beat out Geno Smith and Tommy, I got benched in the season for Tyrod Taylor after winning 3 games in a row? Like, what are we doing?
Look, get the Alex's comment right. I didn't. He said it was a chart that came out. I didn't see the chart, but he said see the day that first round wide receivers bust more than percentage-wise than first-round quarterbacks. And I mean, I can believe it just based off of obviously you get a lot more first-round wide receivers drafted, obviously. And honestly, a lot of you looking around the league right now, you can see it and around the league right now. A lot of the top receivers in the league, one just got paid today, as a matter of fact. Amon-Ra St. Brown got paid because he's played far above his draft status, where he was drafted at. So, so I mean,
picked in the fourth round.
around the league, you see the later round. Yeah, something. I believe he was a fourth round pick. I believe
So
third or
you're telling
fourth
me,
round. I believe.
so let me get this straight before you go on. You're telling me that a fourth round pick from Purdue, I do believe, or Wake Forest, one of those two helmets, is getting paid 100 and
Who? I'm on Raw. He went to USC.
oh, sorry, excuse me, it's USC.
Yeah, he's from
Right?
USC.
USC, fourth round pick, people, and he went to USC. Wasn't on anybody's radar because they probably didn't have a quarterback then to throw in the ball, and somehow is now being the highest paid receiver in the NFL. But you guys want to tell me we can't get one in the later rounds, which the hit rate doesn't happen across the league. All right, continue, Mac. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm just saying, fourth round.
Oh no, I was going actually. I wanted to go back a little bit too, just to what we were talking about before we got on live, when we were speaking before we went live. Remember, like I was saying, what if one of those teams pull like a Green Bay? This is what scares me about trying to mess around and fiddle around. Think you just get them get so and so in the second round. Because what if a team pulls like a Green Bay Packers like move? When they drafted Aaron Rodgers, when they drafted Julian Love, they had quarterbacks in place. Brett Favre and then Aaron Rodgers, when they drafted Julian Love, you knew they weren't bringing those guys in to be the starter right away. You knew that they were coming in and they were going to have to take a seat on that bench.
Right.
You know what I mean? And what if a team with this quarterback class is so talented? What if a team pulls a move like that? A team like the Detroit Lions, for instance, that says Jared Goff's not going to be able to play forever, but right now we got him. We good. We're gonna go ahead and take both picks, and then we'll just have him get groomed for the next couple of years, and then we can throw him out there when Jared Goff rides off into the sunset, or something to that effect. What if a team pulls a move like that because this class is that so talented? I could see something like that happening.
Right, their quarterback's older. They have Kirk Cousins, right? They just paid him mad money. You could have a guy develop in his first 3 years. Kirk Cousins may not see the fourth year, and boom, you still have your guy in house. Like the Saints could do it. They signed Derek Carr, but they could get Bo Nix play in a dome for them, right? The Broncos don't have any quarterback on their team. Well, you think they're going to let one of the talented guys go? And that's what. But see, this is exactly what I mean, Mac. It's called supply and demand. Okay, the supply of receivers is a lot greater than the teams demanding them. Okay, the supply for quarterbacks is smaller than the teams that need them. All right, there's like 8 or 9 teams that need quarterbacks. They only have 6 or 7 that are going to be ranked, and then all those teams are going to be piranhas trying to get to the top to get their guy. So you can't just sit here like George Young said it best. They asked him about Phil Simms. I advise everyone to watch this clip. They said, well, Phil Simms was ranked a lower round first round pick, like in the 20s. And he goes, well, I didn't have a lower first round pick, so I just picked him where I picked. So don't sit there and look at rankings and say, well, we need, if you believe in a guy, if JJ McCarthy, which a lot of people are saying, let's just use JJ McCarthy, is the 21st ranked person on your board, right? And you think he's a first round talent and he's a first round grade. What does it matter if you pick him at 6 if that's where your slot is, right? People want to get too cute with, let's trade down and do this and he's better at this. Just pick him where you pick him. That's it. Just do it. I'll tell you right this. I'll lose respect for Joe Shane if he goes into this draft and picks nobody, not a thing. And I'm not talking about like nobody in the first 2 rounds, right? Anybody after that is just, you're wasting my time. You're blowing sunshine up my ass. You shouldn't have even wasted a draft pick on that particular person. But if he doesn't do that, I'm going to lose respect for him, and he'll be on the hot seat. Dayball will be burning up because if he doesn't make the playoffs, that guy is gone. I don't care what anybody says to me. You're going to have back-to-back losing seasons and no rookie quarterback in here. Please. I mean, look what it did to Atlanta. Atlanta drafted a rookie quarterback in the 3rd round who they groomed. They gave him 1 year, and that quarterback that coach who was an offensive guru couldn't get the best out of him, and they fired his ass and brought in Kirk Cousins. Is that how I want it to happen? No, but that's what the Giants are headed, is Atlanta. And I don't even think they're as good as Atlanta because Atlanta's been building that team up for a few years now.
Yeah, absolutely. But what's going on, Kevin Sullivan? Thanks for stopping in. Appreciate you, bro. And as he's brought up Joe Milton here. I mean, how I feel about Joe Milton. Joe Milton has a big arm, but his intermediate stuff is really needs a lot of work. And I don't know. He's not necessarily a guy I'm looking for. The Giants need a guy that can come in and be an immediate, more of an immediate type of difference maker. Somebody that they're going to be able to be able to rely on this season. Somebody that's ready to go. And I don't. Joe Milton is definitely not going to be that guy. I don't believe.
Well,
But
you don't have
out
time.
of the late round quarterbacks, some of the quarterbacks that are like some of the lesser projected quarterbacks, some of the other lower ranked guys, if let's say hypothetically and I hope it doesn't go this way either. I agree with you 100%. Need one of those guys first, night one or two, but if hypothetically they have to end up settling for one of the later round guys, is there any of those guys that do kind of stand out? Maybe think has a little bit of potential. I mean, I got one that to me that's kind of been I've been thinking like some potential.
I have
He
two
would
of
if
them.
he
Well, I
may
have
be able
three.
to kind of be a diamond in the rough.
I have three guys. I
So who you got?
I think Spencer Rattler. I wouldn't mind if they needed him to come in here because of his history. So Spencer Rattler's one. He was a five-star recruit. Obviously, got beat out in Oklahoma. Had some unfortunate circumstances. I think he could be a potential plus guy, like you can get in the second round. Not ideal, not something I want. But if you're going backup plan because you decide to get cute, here's a guy. I hate to say this guy as well. Michael Pratt out of Tulane is a guy I'm interested in. He has a lot of talent. He's a guy that would be um, an interesting name. He's had a lot of big game experience. He revitalized that program. Is he somebody that I want here? No, but I do like Dable and how he can grow quarterbacks. I'm not saying that Michael Pratt saves your job by any means. What Michael Pratt does, if you get him in the later rounds, is if you suck, the next coach can come in. He at least has a bridge quarterback, a guy who's been there, who's been in the system, who could be a backup and usher in. He's a fourth round pick, not heavy investment. Another guy that I like that is not being talked about, but I thought would be intriguing later on, and I would wonder what he would have been like had he not been injured, is Jordan Travis out of Florida State. He had a good year. He was having a good year, and I would have loved to have seen what he could do if he was fully healthy. And he's a guy that, again, I'm going to keep my eye on as well. There's also another one called Devin Leary. They have some stuff that they like about him. But again, these are guys that I don't necessarily want on my team starting. This is like the last ditch effort. Like, oh, we're going to take a quarterback. Let me take Devin Leary because he has high upside and he's 24. Great. If Devin Leary is starting for the New York Giants, unless he's balling out, because the only way, like, unless he pulls a Sam Howell, right, where he goes like 21 touchdowns with 3,900 yards, and you're like, oh shit, right? Maybe that's what you can do. But I said three guys. Those are my four guys that are sniffing around. I don't want any part of Joe Milton. I like his arm, but Joe Milton to me, I first liked, but then when you watch him at the combine and things like that, he's going to take a little while to develop these. The last four guys I said have a lot of experience playing the quarterback position. Devin Leary transferred schools, went to Kentucky. Jordan Travis went down, unfortunately, at Florida State. But if you like Keon Coleman, there's a lot of the quarterbacks that you look at, right? Like Austin Reed. People don't talk about Austin Reed, but they love Makalaki Corey. But when you go watch Makalaki Corey, there's Austin Reed throwing the ball, and Austin Reed broke some records in there in that with Western Kentucky. So I've talked enough. Who are your guys, Mac?
Well, I was like Devin Leary has been my guy, man. I think this guy has underrated arm talent, very underrated arm talent. I mean, he's it's another thing with the experience thing with him as well. He's got between the ears, man. I think if you did have to settle for a guy in the later rounds, he'd be kind of a guy I would be leaning in his direction. But he's not, like I said, he's not a guy that you could probably depend on to come in and be a big time difference maker right away. He would definitely need some time to develop a little bit, and unfortunately, that's what just the New York Giants just don't seem to have that time. I also do like Austin Reed as well. That's another good one there. Another guy who I think has potential to kind of be a sleeper in this draft. A guy that could be a player could be a player. But I mean, I'm not really trying to go that route. I don't want to see I want to see the Giants get one of those top guys. I don't even want to settle for Spencer Rattler. I'm talking about, and like I said, we can pretty much take Caleb Williams and most likely Jaden Daniels off the table. So we're talking about the other forward pretty much. Giants got to be able to get one of those guys, man. Between Drake May, J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr., New York Giants got to figure out a way to come away with one of those guys. One of those. Like, you got to make it happen, Joe Shane. Like, this is enough already, man. Everybody keeps talking about this has been wrong with the Giants. That's been wrong with the New York Giants. The quarterback situation is wrong with the Giants. So why don't we want to address that? We want to address everything else, but keep this damn quarterback here. That's clearly the solution to nothing. I don't understand it. I can't understand the logic in that.
I'll answer the question.
I can't. It's bothering me.
I'll answer this question for you. Why wouldn't the Commanders want to take Drake May? I'll tell you why. Because if they want to start a guy right away, Jaden Daniels gives them that opportunity. Now, Marcus Mariota is there, but I think if they wanted to start, and I think Cliff Kingsbury does a little bit of air raid. Listen, I'm not saying they're not going to take Drake May. I'm just telling you what I'm hearing. It's leaning towards Jaden Daniels, but they could take Drake May. Hell, they could take J.J. McCarthy as whoever they like, right? They could take Michael Penix Jr. for all we know, and that might be the smartest solution they make. But I think that they're taking if they don't take Jaden Daniels and take Drake May, the whole draft is going to go haywire. But anyways, I think we have a couple more teams to get to. We've talked about the Giants.
Yeah, but real quick with the Giants, wrap up the Giants before, because one position we didn't talk about is the cornerback position. How do you see them addressing that position in this draft? Because go there, Adam. Good, everything good.
My mic is off.
The New York Giants. I was gonna say, how do you see them maybe addressing the cornerback situation? Because I think that Giants definitely need a little bit of help in that area as well.
I think they may draft a guy if they have resources, right? If they don't use 70 or 47 to move up, I think they might draft a guy. However, I think they probably go predominantly offense. They signed Darnay Holmes back. They re-signed Nick McLeod. Okay, they just brought back Aaron Robinson. Okay, and I'm sure that there's a couple more guys on the roster that I haven't talked about that are going to be there. Do I think that's a strong thing to go into? No. Do I think they need another second corner? I do. They also have Cordell Flott as well. I wouldn't be surprised if in this draft they decided to do what they did with the offensive line the other day and they let the young guys play and see who they have on the roster, because next year, again, you might be in a position to pick a guy like that. But if the Giants, cornerback, if they got 47 and they don't want to pick a receiver, or they got 70, I would do that. But to me, corner is low on the list. I'm not really worried about that. I think that the other positions I would address probably would be wide out if I can, tight end, because now that I think Waller's probably going to hang it up. The Giants haven't heard from him all off season.
Well, he's going through it. He's going through a divorce now too. So
yes, so get that handled before you come back and play football for the Giants. So there's guys like Ben Sinnott from Kansas. I like, Theo Johnson. The corners, I'm not really, I don't really think the Giants are really bereft. They have a couple guys there that they might want to try, and Nick McLeod wasn't too bad. And they still have their DBs coach, who I love, Jerome Henderson, who I think can really coach up these guys and play well. Well, the thing that I'm worried about is safety. That's where I would be worried about, because we only have Jason Pinnock and Jalen Mills back there. We did get Dante Belton, but
yeah,
that's why.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Like you said, we got a couple other teams to move on to here, man. Us might as well take it to the Dallas Cowboys, man. The team that's been they've been mysterious this offseason, to say the least. Been quite mysterious. Don't really know what they're really doing, what they're thinking. How do you think the Dallas Cowboys going to the, tomorrow night and to start attacking this NFL draft, man?
Well, the Cowboys are the ace in the hole, right? Because they have so many different moves that they've made. They changed the head coach. They put Dak on notice for for his he has to win, right? So what do they want to get a quarterback? Do they want to not get a quarterback? Do they want to stay put where they are? Do they move around? I think personally they have Mike Zimmer. I think they're going to try to build the defense, and I think they're going to try to flesh out that offense. They have number 24, 56, 87, and then they don't have so they only have 3 picks in the first round in the first 3 rounds. No 4th round pick, no 4th round pick, a 5th round pick, 2 7s, and a 6th. Okay, so I can see them being players as well. I do think they still need a receiver on the other side of CeeDee Lamb because Michael Gallup and Brandon Cooks haven't lived up to that potential. I wouldn't be surprised if they decide to go tight end as well because I think their tight ends are lacking right now. I wouldn't be surprised if they went defense. They lost Van Der Esch. They have Xavier Woods is injured, so maybe they want to go cornerback or have a defensive player there. They do have Micah Parsons. It looks like they may need another defensive weapon there. I wouldn't be surprised if they went if that guy from UCLA slips in that pass rusher. I forget Talale. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I'll see if they have it phonetically spelled out here in my guide, so I can try to get you the name. But he's a defensive tackle, defensive end to watch. Here's his name: Leo Latu. I can't pronounce his name. Sorry. I'm calling him L squared. So L squared. Maybe they go get him. Maybe they get a Jared Verse in Florida State because I think they really need a defensive help with Micah Parsons. And Mike Zimmer is a guy there that I think you want to kind of usher him in. They could also go offensive tackle because they lost Tyron Smith. So they have a lot of needs. I don't believe they're going to go quarterback, but I think the Cowboys are going. If I had to put a gun to my head, they're going to stay on the trenches or on the defensive side of the football. I don't think they go skill position player. I don't think they go corner. I think it stays more in the front 7 and the offensive defensive line. I think that their problem in the playoff game wasn't their offense. It was their defense couldn't stop a nosebleed against the Packers. Yes. Did Dak Prescott throw a pick 6? Yes, that didn't help. Did he not play a great game? That didn't help, right? But you need to solidify winning, and by doing that is you need defensive help. And I think they're going to go. I wouldn't be sorry if they go defense to help out Micah Parsons, get him more one-on-one matchups, allow that defense to be what it is. Mike Zimmer is just as good of a defensive coordinator as Dan Quinn, but they do have some needs. I would say O-line is a big need. I would probably say tight end. If this is where Penix Jr. gets weird. Like if he were to slip down, why wouldn't the Cowboys do that, Mac? Say, okay, we don't want to pay Dak Prescott.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
That's
exactly. They're like you said. They're in a situation where they seem like they're not. Jerry Jones doesn't seem like he's that interested in giving Dak another big payday. That's what I mean. That they're a type of team I can see making a move like that. You still got Dak there for at least another year,
right.
And it's like, you don't have to bring. You can bring this guy in. He can sit for a year, and then next year when you really need him, roll him out there.
Right, they can draft Bo Nix. Right, they can do like the Cowboys.
Exactly.
This is what I mean, folks. When I was telling you about quarterbacks and having somebody in place already that can play, the Cowboys know they can play. Hell, the Cowboys might do this. They know Dak Prescott is big time. If he's having a hot season and somebody's inquiring about him, let's say the Giants, why wouldn't you trade him right now in the middle of the season when he's hot? And then bring in Michael Penix Jr. to finish off the season because he's 24 years old. He's played a ton of football. And your offense that you're running with Mike McCarthy is a down-the-field vertical threat offense. He fits really perfectly into what they do. Okay? And so now you bring in and you fit Dak Prescott. You take Dak Prescott away and you put in another deep ball thrower, probably the best in college football, and you put him behind that offensive line with those weapons now that you're acquiring, and you say, okay, kid, we just got rid of Dak Prescott. This X team is now going to sign him to a long-term deal. You are now our starter for the next 5 years, and away they go. Like, why wouldn't the Cowboys think? I know they got Trey Lance, but he was a 4th-round pick, meaning he could be a backup if needed or a starter if he develops. But you're going to have Michael Penix. If Michael Penix Jr. is sitting there, and I'm the Cowboys, and I look down my coach's list, and I say, listen, What does our offensive line look like if I pass on that and I go with Michael Penix Jr.? And if they go, well, we can get by. I want Michael Penix. Well, guess what? Now you take Michael Penix Jr. Dak Prescott has three options basically. He plays poorly, which probably won't happen. He plays well enough that you get there but doesn't win, and he's always looking over his shoulder, or he gets plays and he gets traded mid-year because somebody goes down or they just want to get him in the organization and they're going to extend him, you know what I mean, to do it right now, because that's what I would be doing. If I'm a quarterback-needed team, like I hate to use our team because they're so fucking dumb, but let's use them for now. Right? You know what? Let's use the Raiders, right? Let's say the Raiders decide, we don't like Gardner Minshew anymore. Aiden O'Connell is not it. We have a chance to get Dak Prescott. We have our defense is coming along. You have Devontae Adams. Our offensive line is pretty good.
What's up, Jose?
And you can get Dak Prescott for like what they gave up for Aaron Rodgers. A second-round pick that could be a first-round pick, depending on certain escalators, right? So now the Cowboys draft Michael Penix Jr. This QB-needed team, either the Broncos, the Raiders, whatever, now take this guy off your hands and get him into their system and can work the contract, and bang. Now the Cowboys move without a beat into their new era, can still build the team, can still be good, and then bingo, bango, boom, right? And unfortunately, that's what we're looking at with the Cowboys if they do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just so unpredictable right now. The draft is I think people are just making it everything seems so so blasé, like this is definitely going to happen. You don't know what the hell is going to happen. I believe these top 6 quarterbacks, there's a potential that they could all go in the first round. Honestly, I don't think it's going to quite happen like that. But at the same time, I wouldn't be shocked if it happened because teams do interesting things. You don't know where these guys truly have these players on their draft board, and they might see an opportunity and just swoop up and take them. Like you said, some of these teams they had the quarterbacks in place, but they have a quarterback in place right now, but they definitely wouldn't be opposed to grabbing one of these young guys and kind of stashing them on their roster, so to speak, and letting them just kind of develop and even in a slower way, the way it kind of used to be back in the day where guys didn't necessarily get rushed into action. So it's to me, it's just the Giants got to do what they got to do because there's too many X factors, I believe, and they got to be able to grab one of these guys. With that being said, the Cowboys could be one of those teams that do make a move like that. Just nothing they do ever shocks me. Yeah, nothing this team does ever surprises me, and it just wouldn't shock me right now. All that they're going through.
Let's play this out, right? Let's say the Cowboys draft Michael Penix, and they're having a bad season, or not an okay season, whatever. Bill Belichick is looming out there. So now you bring in Bill Belichick. You've given him a quarterback in Michael Penix Jr., right? You don't have to pay the big quarterback because now you shipped him out of town because the Cowboys probably would want some assets for him instead of just letting him walk, right? And you'll get a QB comp. But, man, now you have a new coach, a new era, and a new identity, and it's all because they took a chance on a guy, even though they had a guy in place who might not have been the incumbent. If the Giants don't understand what they're going up against, we're going to be in quarterback hell for years.
Jose, I like all 6 of the top guys in this draft. I honestly like what all of them bring to the table. I'm personally in the minority. I think Bo Nix might be the sneaky, guy that comes out of this class potentially to being the top guy out of this class. But I'm totally in the minority there. Nobody's on that island with me. Really, not many people are on that island with me.
Listen, I visited the Bo Nix.
I think he's I just think that's personally a guy that I just like what he brings to. I think that the experience, intangible, the amount of starts he had at the big time level at college football. To me, that's an intangible that you can't like. That's not something you can just coach. That's either you have that or you don't. You know what I mean? And he's played a lot of big time games, man. Had some moments, man. And I just think I like what he brings to the table myself personally. But that's just me.
But that's what I mean, man.
I like any of the top 6 guys. I think they're all potential future like superstars in this league. So I'd be satisfied if Giants can get any of those guys.
Well, I guess I would say the top 6. I would say any guys after Caleb Williams. I would that. So it goes for me. I'll do this just so give.
Well,
I got Jaden
yeah.
Daniels, Drake May, JJ McCarthy, Michael Penix Jr. I think Bo Nix is up there, and I say Spencer Rattler is like my last guy that I would truly want on this team. At the stretch would be that's starting to creep in is Michael Penix Jr. I mean Michael Pratt, right? But if you can't figure out a way to get, if one of those 6 to 7 guys, what are you doing, Joe Shane? Like, your job is to get guys. Like, if you look at the Cowboys, they have forward thinking. They're like, oh, we have a quarterback problem. We may need to get a quarterback, so let's bring in a guy. Like, if Bo Nix is there for them in the round 2, or they want to go up and get Bo Nix, so they want to take him because of that. Why wouldn't they do it? They have a quarterback issue. They clearly don't want to pay a guy, and they're banking on him being good, right? And getting him over the hump. So if you're already saying that he's out the door, then why wouldn't you do it? You're the Dallas Cowboys. Now, you probably could wait for Shedeur Sanders, who might play for you next year because of the Deion connection, and he probably will be their quarterback next year. But I'm just saying, if you want to think forwardly, that's what I would do. Like, that's what I'm saying. The Giants have no excuses to me. If you're in the top 10 and there are 6 quarterbacks that we believe are first-round guys, you need to pick at least one of those guys and leave there with that. And that is because I like Brian Daboll.
No mess, no nest, no jets. I'd love to take this question from you, bro. Take this question, bro, because what I see in Bo Nix is a guy. It's just like I said, the experience thing. He's very mature. He's not coming out like just a totally like one of these little 21-year-old, 22-year-old kids. He's a little bit more mature. He has that maturity. He's also when I look at Bo Nix, I just see a guy that looks like a goddamn quarterback. He looks like what you draw up as. You draw me a picture of a quarterback. You draw a picture of Bo Nix. That he just looks like that one of those kind of guys, man. I know it might sound weird, doesn't make sense, but he definitely can spin the football, man. He can definitely. It's just something about him that I've seen and especially throughout this all season with his workouts and such like that. Even seeing him a little bit more so than even watching him at Oregon. It's just something about this kid that looks right when it comes to it's like it's just going to translate and he's going to be able to figure it out and process it, and the moments are not going to be too big for him. He's going to be able to step in and handle it. And I just like what I see when I see Bo Nix. He just looks like that like you just said here, quintessential quarterback prototype. He just looks like that guy. That's just how, I don't know. I know it might not make a whole lot of sense to most people, but it is. That's just how I feel about him. But
I like Bo Nix. I think I was up and down with him for a long time. At first, I really loved him. I'm like, this is a Giants guy. This is who I would want for them to get in the second round. And then I realized as we were going through, we sucked enough to get some of these bigger guys. But he's my backup plan. And people keep saying and mocking, he was in with the Giants. The Giants have had a visit with him. They met him in. They had him in for a 30 visit. So he is definitely an option. An option that I think people are putting a lot of their personal biases in front of the actual player on the field. And that's what I've noticed about a lot of the people's evaluations. Oh, I prefer JJ. I prefer Jaden. I prefer this. I like this guy. And I look at it like I like the quarterback position. These 5 guys are all good. These 5 guys are all worth a first-round pick. And these 5 to 6 guys should be considered for the Giants because we have a quarterback problem. Just like we talk about receiver, you can't just talk about the top 2 guys and that's it, right? They like Roma Dunze, right? They like 3 guys. They like 4 guys, which they only like 3 guys because they only brought in 3 of the receivers, 4 receivers, and they brought in 6 quarterbacks. So that's another reason why I think they're going to go quarterback. They brought in 6 quarterbacks. You don't do the work that you've done to then punt on the quarterback position because you don't like a guy. And we just talked, there's at least 6 to 7 guys in here who have potential. Even Spencer Rattler. Like when you go watch Spencer Rattler's tape and you go look at him, he's making a lot of pro throws. He's making a lot of big time throws. His name is Spencer Rattler, though. If you were to take his name and put Austin Reed in there with those numbers, he might be higher.
Austin Reed's playing at Western Kentucky, so it's a different mindset, right? So you're not thinking about him. But what I mean by Spencer Rattler is if you read his profile, it wasn't like Dan Jones, who's a 3-star recruit. He was a 5-star recruit, a 5-star athlete. That means he was one of the top recruits in the class. He was arguably one of the top guys that they said he was going to be a number 1 pick at one point because of where he played, right? And then he fell off with Oklahoma. But if you look at he thrown for 28 touchdowns, which he doesn't. Kudo, you know what I mean? So it's just it's one of those things where, the Giants should not say, like, let's say they go wide out, which I don't agree with, but they somehow get Bo Nix or they get Spencer Rattler at 47 or even 33 or whatever. That's why when they traded 39, I was pissed because I would be like, all right, I don't really care. You can get Bo Nix at 39, right? But now that you get at 47, you have no choice but to try to go up and get a guy right now because you don't have 39 to kind of mortgage and say, listen, let me move up with Carolina, let me move up with another team, like the Commanders or whatnot, and say, hey, can I switch my 39 for your 36 to get Bo Nix, right? So they're going to have to be creative. They're going to have to get their quarterback. Daniel Jones' era is over. And, I'm happy with any one of the 7 that are mentioned, from Williams to Rattler. Anybody outside, and I'm even growing on Michael Pratt. Anything else? Don't get me Sam Hartman. Don't get me fucking Milton. I mean, would I be cool with Jordan Travis? Yeah, in the 6th round or an undrafted free agent because I know that he's kind of good, but that doesn't save your job. So go out there and get the quarterback. I know we spent too much time on this. We still have one more team to go, but Cowboys are that team, like you said, who could pull the Green Bay shit.
Oh, well, no Mets, no Nets, no Jets up here. You said if we draft a wide receiver at 6, there's a good chance Knicks is there at 47. I'm not sure, man, because I can see him. If he does go over to the day 2, which is looking like that's probably going to be the case with him right now. It's looking like that, right? That he's gonna make it to round 2 at least. I can see a team jumping up early, just moving up immediately, and grabbing him just because at that point he probably will be the best, well, by far the best available quarterback, but just even possibly the best available player at that point, honestly. And I can see a team moving up, jumping up, and grabbing him earlier in the 2nd round than than him dropping all the way down to 47. But
if he's there,
I could be wrong. And yeah, I mean that would be a perfect scenario if we could spin that and know that's going to happen like that. But do we really know?
Well, that's what
none of us know.
Those
are the
things that
when you got a class this. Yeah, you got a class this talented. You just don't know what teams are thinking, man.
Right.
You have no idea what teams are thinking. I mean, you don't know how they have evaluated these quarterbacks, but we're not the only ones that know that this is a special group of prospects here. We're not the only ones that recognize that these scouts and these from all these teams around the NFL, they notice that, man, and you just don't know what could happen with this kind of talent, man. It's not necessarily going to be sitting there waiting for you at 47. I'm just not trying to risk that.
The Texans traded out, right? They traded out. They gave 2 picks to Minnesota. What if Minnesota parlays that and says, I'm going to take Bo Nix at 23, right? Because we want a quarterback. We couldn't go up and get, May or McCarthy or Penix Jr. or whatever the fuck. They couldn't get him because teams traded up or they were gone before they punted on it, right? Now they have 23 and they're sitting there saying, hey, why don't we get Bo Nix? The Saints don't have a good quarterback position. What if they decide to move it? Like, there's so many. That's why I'm saying trade up and get your guy now or take your guy at 6 because there's more of a possibility of a guy being there and losing less assets to get one, like Penix Jr. at 6, than risking trying to wait it to get to 47, where now you have to wait. Not only do you have to wait through picks, you have to wait now 41 more picks to get to 47, where that's a lot of shit to wait for.
Absolutely, man. But I guess we'll get ready to talk a little bit of Eagles, man. Eagles have had one hell of an offseason, obviously, as we all know. I think they have propelled themselves back in front of the Dallas Cowboys for sure with the moves they made on paper thus far in this offseason, acquiring Saquon Barkley, and some of a lot of the other moves they've made has been really positive. A lot of positive moves for the Philadelphia Eagles, locking down Devontae Smith for a few more years. I mean, this team they figure out a way to stay relevant, man. They figure out a way to stay good. They figure out a way to stay competitive. I hate talking about them. I hate giving them props, but they do it the right way, man. This team knows what they're doing, man. Their front office knows what they're doing, and they just figure out a way to continuously get it done. What do you think the Eagles are? We expect to see from the Eagles potentially as the draft opens up tomorrow night, man.
I think they're going to try to make a move for a corner if one happens to slip to them. One of the big time guys. I heard the rumor is they're trying to move up to get one. So I don't know because quarterbacks are probably going to be high and people are going to make trades. You're going to get guys pushed down, and I think right now they couldn't cover a nosebleed last year, and that's not going to help you in your pass rush, especially in the Vic Fangio pass rush. Now, what was interesting to me was a lot of people rumors had that Patrick Surtain was going to be moved. Well, he's not moved. They picked up his fifth-year option. They would love to get a Patrick Surtain in there. They would love to get a guy like that. I was to be surprised if he wasn't there. If Vic Fangio was already there, it probably would have been that guy. But Kool-Aid from Alabama might be a target of theirs. That's one of the guys they've been that you could look at. Taron Arnold, also from Alabama, might be a guy that slips to them. There is Nate Wiggins from Clemson, but I don't know how far that he goes down. But if he happens to slip, probably anywhere in between them, look for the Eagles trying to trade up. I think if they're going to go corner, they're going to try to get the best one there. I'm not saying they don't have a lot of corners, but I think that's where they're going to help their offense out. Their defense out. Let's be honest. Their offense has two good receivers, a good tight end, a good offensive line, a solid quarterback, solid to good quarterback, and a running back that's phenomenal, right? Your problems are defensive only. And when you
absolutely
look at it like that, your window is small, but defensive guys can come in, and you just got a new defensive coordinator in Vic Fangio. He prides himself on the press, bump and run type corners, big physical. Patrick Surtain was one of his draft picks in Denver. So if you're looking at that guy like Nate Wiggins would be a guy for them. 6'2", runs a 4.38. That fits into the Vic Fangio system. Will he be there? I don't know. Will they make a move? Howie Roseman is a guy that makes moves. Okay, he doesn't let people slide. He doesn't care. He made a move to get Devontae Smith. You know what I mean? He'll go get people. He doesn't matter about moving draft capital and do whatever it takes because their window is short. So Rasnow out of Miz also looks solid. There's a couple of guys like that who can do that, right? Like I mentioned, Taron Arnold out of Alabama is pretty good, right? You've got Queion Mitchell who might be there. You have Cooper DeJean who might also be available. Okay, these are guys I would circle as an Eagle. Like Cooper DeJean, he has a name written all over in one because he had a knee injury, but if he's healthy, he was all over the field. He could be the best defensive back in all of the draft. So they're going to have their options, and I think that's where they're going to lean towards. Remember, they did the front seven a lot in the previous drafts with Jalen Carter and the Davis kid, and they did Nakobe Dean. And, they brought in Nolan Smith, they also brought in Bryce Huff there as well. And so their front seven is going to be ferocious. But it's their back defense. And I wouldn't be surprised if they go corner and then safety in the first two rounds because they don't have a really great safety either. I think they signed Bird. I'm not sure if they signed Bird. Let's get their roster up here real quick just so I'm making sure I'm navigating this properly for you. But this team they seem to find a way. Every time I count the Eagles out, they find a way. And I agree with you, Mac, 100%. They have jumped over the Cowboys immensely. But let's look at their DBs, right? They have Rasheed Blankenship. They still have Bradbury. Okay, they still have Sidney Brown. They still have C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who they just got, right? So that might they just got Avonte Maddox back. So they have some guys that can come in here they brought in Eli Ricks, but they could also go defense. Like I think they're just going to go defense. Like let's be honest, they have tight ends that they could probably do. They brought in C.J. Uzomah. Like this team is stacked. They brought in Paris Campbell. Like they've got names all over. Devontae Smith, Devontae Parker, A.J. Brown, Paris Campbell. Like my God, that's just on offense alone. Then they have Blankenship, Bradbury, Sidney Brown, who they brought in, C.J. Gardner-Johnson. So I think they'll go corner, but I think they can also, if they want to, trade back. They're a very stacked team. Or maybe they go lineman and replenish that. Lance, what's his name?
I was going to say they lost Fletcher Cox to retirement. Traded Hassan Reddick to the Jets. I mean, they could potentially look to just continuously add a little bit more depth up there too. I mean, it's like you said, it's still already what they still have is still damn good up front. But at the end of the day, they can still look to add more depth. I mean, they're going to have to really get the most out of the young guys they drafted the last couple of years, Jalen Carter and the kid the year before. I can't remember his name off right now.
Jordan Davis.
Yeah, Jordan Davis. Yeah.
Well, the thing that's funny, Mac, is that they have Kenny Pickett, they have Tanner McKee, they have Jalen Hurts, Will Grier. They have guys on the roster all around the roster where they can throw in a guy in a trade if they wanted to. Right? They could say, you know what? They also brought in Julio Aquara, who's a good outside linebacker, who's had some side. They could go. Let's say they wanted to trade up and get a defensive player. They could be like, you know what? We don't want Jordan Davis, or we don't need Noah Ellis, or we don't want Darian Jackson, right? They can add guys to the pot because they have so much depth, and their team is stacked. When I'm telling you, they're stacked. This is why good teams they just acquire talent. And now they're oozing with talent. I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl or anything like that, but I agree with you. They're either going to go defense fully, like a cornerback, maybe a linebacker, because I don't know how they feel about Nakobe Dean. But damn, man, their depth is ridiculous. This is how you get better. This is how good teams get better. They can just pick BPA and add to whatever room they want to do. Remember when the Giants used to do that? When they added Matthias Kiwanuka to an already deep room because they were like, you can never have so many passes. God.
I mean, this team is like you said, offensively, that's what's scary because they're so good offensively that they're basically set as far as their core offensive players. They're set, as much as any team in this league. But they can pretty much go into this draft and totally focus on what their Achilles heel was a year ago, which was that defense, and they can really put all the attention into upgrading this defense, which already has players on it. Like you said, they got players on that side of the ball. They just had a few areas last season. They had some holes where things just didn't work out for them. But they got some dogs on defense. Don't get it wrong. But what they have offensively allows them to really go into this draft and just really put the focus on getting their defense up to a championship level defense, man. So we'll see what the Eagles do, man. But like you said, their roster, the way their roster is set up, they can pretty much do whatever the hell they want to do. That's the position they put themselves in. They can do whatever they want to do, and no one's really going to question it because that team is loaded, like you just said. But I wanted to talk real quick before we wrap things up. There's a receiver I wanted to bring up. We were talking about wide receivers earlier. And there's one that I really do like a lot. And I mean, people are not like just outright not talking about him, but I think they're not giving him enough love. And that's why when everybody's like Malik Neighbors and Romans, it would be, those guys are great and it would be nice to have those guys. But I think a guy that would really fit into what the New York Giants need at the wide receiver position is the young man, Keon Coleman, man, out of Florida State, man. If somehow the Giants could come out of this draft with Drake May or one of those quarterbacks and Keon Coleman, I'm good with that. I'm like more than satisfied with that, with those being the kind of move if the Giants would come out of this draft with something like that. I don't know how your thoughts on Keon Coleman, but he apparently, people are slightly down on him because he's not the fastest guy, but he's a big receiver, big strong hands, runs good crisp routes, man. I don't know how you feel about Keon Coleman, man.
Well, I like him, and what I want to tell people is if you run a good route, you don't need a great 40 time because your route is essentially going to get you open, right? So Jerry Rice was not a burner by any means, but when you see his highlights, he's running by motherfuckers. Why? Because he set people up with his route running, right? So I think 40 time gets overblown with the receivers because that's what you do. You run. I mean, John Ross ran a 4.27. Guess what? That guy didn't do shit in the league, So I'm not judging.
Damn thing.
I'm not judging Paris Campbell ran fast too. What has he done, right? I mean, a lot of guys run fast and do nothing. But Yes, I would be good with McCarthy and Coleman. But Coleman does the things that we don't have. The high pointing of a football, the boxing out, the throwing a ball. Like, think of Julio Jones type shit, where you can throw a back shoulder fade.
Exactly.
Because he back, you know how dynamite that was for Eli Manning and Hakeem Nicks when they needed a first down, they could just do a back shoulder every play that they needed to move downfield because he had a big bodied receiver. The Giants have too many. I like to call them Smurfs, smallish guys. Right, they're fast, right? But I like Xavier Leggett because he reminds me of a physically statured guy like Hakeem Nicks, and he's a burner. I also like Coleman because he does what a Kenny Golladay would do, is a gazelle downfield and runs and goes up and gets the ball and will pick it up in all different angles, and you can contest the catches. We don't have that many highly contested catch guys where they're gonna what's the term the kids use? Moss somebody. That's what Kenyon Coleman can do. He can go up and Randy Moss you. He can go up and take the ball away, and that's what I think we need in the red zone. I think a lot of the reason why we don't have touchdowns is because we don't run a route where we go and say, hey, like Plaxico Burress is the best at it, a slant go route. You throw that guy the ball, he's 6'5". You know how many times he bailed out Eli Manning because Manning would just throw the ball in his direction? A lot.
It's just throwing back corner fades to Wan'Dale Robinson and shit like that. That's not he's not that kind of receiver. He's not that kind of. He's just not. That's not the kind of guy he is. You need a guy like you said, like a Coleman, like a Xavier Leggett, guys like guys like that. I just think, like when I look at Keon Coleman, man, I know I might be outrageous, might be taking too far, but I get those Devontae Adams type vibes from Keon Coleman, man. A guy that could come and he could literally take the league by storm. I think he has that kind of potential. I believe he has that kind of a. I think he has a potential. I think guys aren't giving him enough respect because like I said, and don't get it wrong. Like I said, Malik Neighbors, they deserve all the accolades they get. I just think a guy like Keon Coleman is being a little bit slept on behind those guys, man. And I think I'd be more than happy if the New York Giants came away from this draft with one of those top quarterbacks and him. And that would be a good combination for me right there. I mean, that's just how I feel about that. But I don't know if you have any more final thoughts before we wrap things up. Have we approached the hour and a half mark?
Well, not really. Just, if the Giants want to do it the right way, they get a quarterback. If they want to do it the wrong way, and you guys listen, there are people out there who want receiver. There are people out there who want to be right more than wrong. And while Malik Neighbors and Adunze are good players, they're not needle movers. They're not making me go to see the stadium. I mean, it'll be like Odell Beckham Jr. all over again, except worse because we don't have Eli Manning throwing them football. We have Drew Lock and Tommy DeVito and Jones, right? Who, let's be honest, Jones is not that good. So you can't expect the same impact that these guys are going to have. So while, yes, the receiver may look sexy and may be the sexier pick, right? Quarterback is the smarter pick. It's the one that we need. It's the one that will move the franchise in the direction that we need to go. And I say this because I believe in the quarterbacks here, right? But you can say, oh, Adam, we also believe in Sam Howell and those guys. Yeah, but we didn't need to pick a quarterback at that time. We could have just in-house developed a guy. So taking Malik Willis is different. If you had Malik Willis under Brian Daboll's tutelage for the last 2 years and he showed you something, I'd be all for it taking Malik Neighbors and maybe get a quarterback later. But we don't. We don't. And Joe Shane,
exactly,
said it best. By any means necessary, do it. Get it done.
Yeah, just make it happen, man. Make it happen for real, seriously. But before we wrap things up and get out of here, man, I just want to send a shout out to all my guys from Big Blue Crew, man. Big Pat Sports Talk, Lou from G Nation Sports, NYG, Unpopular Opinion Sports. And I'm not sure who else is going out there to the draft out in Detroit, man, but I want you guys to all go out there, be safe, have fun, represent the Big Blue Crew like you always do, man. And I'll be talking to y'all when y'all get back, man, no doubt for sure, man. I know we had a great time out in KC last year, so I know y'all going to do the damn thing out in Detroit. And maybe I'll join y'all out in Green Bay next year, man. I'll see about that. see about heading to Title Town for the draft. But
it needs to go to I need to go to a place where it's nice so I can bring my wife out and because her birthday is during the draft. So it's like I can't be like, hey, honey, let me go hang out with the guys now. So
yeah, heard that.
And if the draft is in Paris, maybe
well, myself and Adam will definitely be back next week. Once again, we'll be recapping the draft, breaking down all the picks, man, airing it out, man, letting you know how we feel about, man, what these teams did, what the Giants did, what the Eagles did, the Cowboys, the Commanders. Be breaking it all down next week, and we'll be back to following week after that because I'm sure the schedule will be releasing. That might have to be a Thursday show. We'll see. But we'll be back. We'll be coming back at y'all the next couple of weeks, man, with the real deal NFC East Roundup. I'm your boy, Mac the Giants fan, man. That is my guy, the super dope co-host, Adam Costas. And this has been another edition of the real deal NFC East Roundup.
See ya.
Thanks for coming out, y'all. I'd like to thank you all for listening. If you was feeling this, please take time to subscribe and smack them likes. Feel free to drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to ring that bell so you know when I'm dropping new content. It's your boy, Mac the Giants fan. You can find me on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at Mac the Giants fan. That's MACDA Giants fan.